Um, Let us begin. So, welcome everyone. Welcome back. Um, this is our afternoon session. And in this room, we have Darlene Troge from Shinnecock Kelp Farmers. And I met Darlene through Eileen Dugan. And I had also an opportunity to hear her speak in a different workshop presentation, and also featured her in our Strandline newsletter. And I thought it would be very interesting to have people hear about conservation through a cultural lens, and especially through the work that these ladies are doing from the Shinnecock Nation and out in Long Island at the newly designated Hope Spot, and working with Ellen Pickich. And so it's all comes full circle, culturally, scientifically, and conservation wise. And so it's without any further ado, it's a great honor to hear from Darlene Troge and the work that she's doing. Take it away, Darlene.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you so much for reaching out to us and beginning to understand the work that you and the marine educators are doing, and educators in general. Our love of the earth and the water is not limited to Indigenous people, but is shared. It's a shared resource. So we're delighted to be here to talk about a resource that Mother Earth offers to all of us that is doing phenomenal work. And we want to very quickly, in the short amount of time that we have, give an overview of a seaweed called kelp. Kelp is a type of seaweed that absolutely loves to consume not only sun, but carbon and nitrates and other bad stuff that's in our water. It's a natural resource, and I have some slides that I'd like to go through. So if you'd allow me to
I made you
share.
co-host.
Okay, thank you. The slides are very quickly going to give us an overview of Shinnecock Kelp Farms. It's going to give you background on kelp and the Shinnecock Kelp Farmers' age-old relationship with kelp. And we are going to invite all of the workshop participants really to join us in water protecting through kelp. So
Okay, so you have to share your screen since you are now
okay,
co-host.
will do.
Should be on the top somewhere. Oh, sorry,
Yes,
it should be on the bottom in green, like a green box, green lettering.
I see it. The trick is sharing what I want to share.
There you go.
There you go.
And if I think on the bottom somewhere, you might be able to. Sarah, where was that arrow that you were hitting earlier to get rid of the left side slideshow?
It was on the top,
This-
but it was in Keynote. I'm not sure this is Keynote.
It's
Okay.
the screen image. On the very bottom right, there's a screen, picture of a screen. Very bottom right.
I may not be able to see it. My Zoom may be in the way. Okay, there we are.
Next one, yeah. No, all the way over the last one.
Got it.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. A voice from beyond. Thank you.
Not yet.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, right. Here we go. So Shinnecock Kelp Farmers, we really believe that we are uniquely positioned to listen to the signals that Mother Earth is giving us. And the reason we feel that we are uniquely positioned to hear that voice is because we were raised on the Shinnecock Indian Reservation, which is not owned by anyone. It's never been owned. We do not have deeds. We do not have mortgages. We do not have lines that say, this is your land, this is your air, this is your water. We grew up sharing the resources. This is part of our life way to share. So in these days of climate change and catastrophic events, such as we had a 99%, better than 99% die off of scallops in Shinnecock Bay. So that's what we call catastrophic. So our relationship with kelp goes back millennia. So this story that we're going to share today is a combination of traditional knowledge with the kelp, the women of kelp, who you see in this photo. To the left, that's myself. Next is Donna Collins. In the center is our project director, Tila. Danielle is to the your right of Tila, and then finally Becky Jania. We came together in 2019 when we learned that this die-off could be healed by using some traditional knowledge, but we needed science to assist us in this project. The reason we needed science as we look at the catastrophic conditions that are being monitored by Stony Brook University School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences, Shinnecock Bay Science Studies, the Nature Conservancy is involved, and many organizations are monitoring the health of not only Shinnecock Bay, but Shinnecock Bay, Gardiner's Bay, as well as Long Island Sound and the oceans. As you can see, Long Island water quality impairments are real. This chart is easily available online, and it shows toxicity levels. And you can see there are blooms that actually render those areas dead. So we're working with many organizations, partnerships, traditional knowledge, and science is leading us to solutions beyond our wildest expectations. So Save Our Seas is a call to action where we are combining that traditional knowledge and climate science. So I just want to very quickly take you back in time to the impact that seaweed has had on our tribal community, how kelp is understood not only in our traditional circles, but by scientists, contemporary scientists, and then how do we combine these traditional teachings to work together to save our seas. And also, just as a note, I'm going to quickly go through these slides, and please save your questions. We are going to reserve some time for questions and answers. So this is a shot of our beautiful kelp. We were looking forward to an in-person presentation where we were actually going to bring some kelp with us for you to touch and feel. But I found a photo that I hope helps you to get an idea of what kelp feels like. But imagine a lasagna noodle, al dente. That's what kelp feels like. The impact on our tribal people, goes back many, many generations. We have been in relationship with kelp, and by that I mean kelp has been used for insulation for homes. It has been used to, have you been to a clam bake lately? They're yummy. Kelp and other seaweeds can be used to line the clam bake pit, and there's nothing like a delicious meal from a clam bake pit. But there are also other benefits. The kelp actually is able to provide iodine, so important for thyroid function, and prebiotics that help your digestive tract to function normally. And it's one of those cure all things that the list goes on and on and on. So traditionally, when we're enjoying a clam bake, it's delicious and yummy. Scientifically, kelp is providing all of these nutrients and minerals for us. So it's right there in plain sight, even though we don't always know how the science is working. Another area that is part of our traditional story is how kelp cures. This was documented in a very early 1900s Journal of American Folklore and Herbal Lore, Lore, mythology of the Shinnecock people, documented in 1903 and then repeated here in the Journal of American Folklore in 1945. Then, amazingly, in 2019, the scientific community found that kelp and other seaweeds could be a cure for rheumatoid arthritis. Now, this is something that the Shinnecock people have known. Our grandparents have passed down the story of, if you have aches and pains, go and soak in the waters of Shinnecock Bay. And it was prescribed for 2 hours. And you would begin to feel relief from your aches and pains. Actually, Anthony Beeman was well before his time. He was a Shinnecock relative of Danielle and I's. And he actually called out rheumatoid arthritis and that kelp was a cure. So traditional knowledge and science does weave. We just don't always, we don't always see the science, but we know that it makes us feel better. That's a really quick background on our many, many generations of relationship with kelp. Now I'd like to move more into the science and how Shinnecock Kelp Farmers have bought kelp into the hatchery. We grow it from seed, we outplant it. And to give you more detail on that process, Danielle is one of our technicians, and I'd like to ask her to tell us a little bit about what we're seeing right now.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Hopson Begun. So what we are, not only are we a farm, but we are a hatchery as well. So our season starts in the hatchery. We send out divers that we share with Stony Brook and Cornell and other various entities. And we send these divers and they go look for fertile kelp strands. Once they find them, and they're getting more difficult to find by the day because due to global warming. So we can never guarantee that we're going to find them or where we're going to find them. they bring them back, we test them, and if they're looking good, we do a spore release. So we basically cut out the fertile parts, add in sterilized, clean bay water, and it releases millions of microscopic seeds. Before we get the seeds, we're already in our hatchery. So you kind of see the aquaria there. Those will not have the spools in it yet, but they will be just, the water is correct, the right temperature, we have the right nutrients and the right light. We introduce the seed into total darkness for 24 hours. And then we hope and pray that we've done everything right and that they'll adhere to each one of our spools. Now, our spools are 4-inch PVC pipe with approximately 400 feet of seed rope on each one. So that's kind of what you see in front of you. That's pretty far along in the process. That's towards the end of the process in the hatchery. You can't see the seed for at least 2 weeks when we first start out. I think we can go to the next slide. There we are. So after you saw the slide there, they were looking big. Each kelp seed gets to be about 3 to 5 millimeters. And then we outplant into whatever body of water we choose. This happens to be in Shinnecock Bay. We put out 4-foot anchors. They're kind of heavy. They're at least maybe 5 pounds a piece. I'm not very big, so they are difficult to handle and difficult to get into the water. We sink those in and we string marine rope about 100 feet between 2 anchors. And when our seed string is ready, we take them out and we kind of unwind the seed string onto the marine rope that has been suspended between the 2 anchors. And that's us. Yes, they go out in generally late December, early January. It's cold. We wear thermal gear, as well as coats and special gloves. And it's very hard work, but very, very rewarding and meditative. I think we can go. There we are. So that slide makes me really happy. That is our kelp at around 4 weeks into the process. Remember from the first slide, you saw where it started, very tiny, 5 millimeters max. And now we have at least maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. Very beautiful and delicate at this time. And it's already started doing its work, eating nitrogen and carbon out of the water. Here we are. So during the season, we participate with one of our partners, GreenWave, in measuring our kelp crop. We take about a 1-foot span and harvest it once per month, and we weigh it and we submit that data to GreenWave, who helps us to determine how much carbon and nitrogen we are sequestering over the full season. I think we can go to the next slide. There we are. And that's a joyful face there. So that's at our harvest, and that's about 20 weeks out. They're very long. They can go up to, for us, I think the maximum that we've seen is about 5.5 feet. We are shallow water kelp farmers. So we go out on foot. We don't have any boat yet. We're hoping to acquire a boat at some point and be able to have more access to different locations. But of course that brings with it more complications. So right now we are on foot and so proud of this harvest. You can see that it grew to at least maybe 4 to 5 inches in width and 5 feet in length. And that's from a microscopic cell. And we're very proud of that. I think we can go to the next, which I believe is, so once we harvest, we bring in our sugar kelp to dry and process into a soil amendment. Our soil amendment is basically a fertilizer. It's an amazing biostimulant for all of your gardening needs. We offer it at this time of year for sale, and it's really a part of our traditional way of living. We are in our agriculture, the corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. We would traditionally plant them together, and alongside we would add seaweed and maybe a fish head or something left over, and we would have this amazing growth. And we're basically reusing those ideas here as well and offering them for everyone to use. I think we can go to the next slide. Wonderful. You probably have a lot of questions about our process, but save them for the end if you have any, and I can answer all of them. Auntie?
Yes, Shinnecock Kelp Farmers in the classroom. You may have gotten an idea that we love sharing our traditional wisdom. And whenever we get an opportunity to go into the classroom, we love to talk about photosynthesis. We love to talk about the voracious appetite that kelp has for carbon dioxide and nitrates. And I remember early on, we were wondering if our youngest students would ever be able to understand the word photosynthesis. And boy, do they ever. They have absolutely no problem saying the word or understanding the process. And we have found, to our delight, that students are not only completely interested in the process of growing kelp, but have a really great understanding of photosynthesis. They are amazed at the growth of the kelp. They love the color of it. And we even had a group from the Mary Lewis Academy that were so fascinated by a presentation that we did where we mentioned our spooling. So Danielle showed you earlier a slide that had spools with 400 feet of seed string. When we first started kelp farming, we did that stringing completely by hand. So if you could imagine 3 kelp farmers, one holding the string, one holding the pipe, and one spinning, it gets complicated. So this group from the Mary Lewis Academy approached us and said they had an inventor's class and that they would love to invent a spooler. Dan, could you tell us a little bit about the spooler that they invented?
Sure. So I had met their leader at a retreat at where our headquarters are, and they have a robotics team. It's an all-girls robotics team. And we had explained this problem that we were having. So much time was being spent on the spinning of the spools. So it was their idea to create something with their 3D printer to be able to have 1 or 2 people be able to take care of this task. And basically over last summer, they were able to produce something that we used this past season in our work. And we're working on like creating a patent and for it because it's so brilliant. And there are so many people that will have need for this kind of technology. And for me, I'm really especially proud about this collaboration because for those girls, it brought their science learning into a real world problem. They solved a real world problem. And by solving that problem, they have saved us time and we're able to do a lot more cleaning of the water. And it's just good all around.
Yes, and it is a kind of learning that goes beyond classroom and then out of the head. It's a reminder every day that our students come into the environment that there's something that they can do. They may not want to become a kelp farmer, but kelp farming presentations, photosynthesis, even our mentoring day gives students an opportunity to join us as water protectors with brainstorming on how they might be able to join the effort. And so we're so happy to be here today because once again, with the group of educators that we have an opportunity to present to, we're constantly brainstorming on how to get into the schools to educate about climate change. And kelp is just one solution that we have found that aligns with our values, our mission, and helps us to tell the story of water protection and the many, many forms that might take. So we're currently in the process of developing a book and a mural, which we will distribute to schools, and we're going to invite classrooms to add kelp to the mural. There is a song that will talk about just thinking about the future and what we all can do collectively to protect our future for many, many generations into the future. For our students, they, as I said, they love the idea of natural solutions. They love the idea of having an opportunity to listen very closely and determine what it is that they can do to make a difference. And just having the information about kelp and how our group as Shinnecock Kelp Farmers have had an opportunity to change the waters in Shinnecock Bay. It has been amazing, and they're so young to have so much interest in the environment. But what we also found in working with the students is that many of them feel overwhelmed. And in some cases, and I think this comes on the tail end of COVID and their isolation, they sometimes share that they feel hopeless, that there's nothing that they can do. So we invite them with the story of kelp to know that there is something that they can do. It is not hopeless. And because we come as Shinnecock Kelp Farmers from an environment where we have experienced the catastrophic results of climate change with the loss of 99.9% of scallops in the Shinnecock Bay, we can honestly tell the students that we have seen scallops attached to our kelp. So 99% die-off means near extinction. And they love hearing that scallops actually move throughout the bay. Scallops swim, well, quote unquote swim, but they move with the ebb and flow of the tides. And on our kelp, we have seen scallops attached. They are not extinct, and they are clinging to our kelp, and they are breathing the improved oxygen that is produced as the kelp consumes the carbon dioxide and nutrients and shares oxygen with us. As a matter of fact, we've learned the science of kelp, and we've learned that kelp actually puts off more oxygen than the redwood trees. So it's an oxygenator for sure. And our students love, for some reason, they just love that fact the word oxygenator. And we love the fact that they can embrace that and understand that kelp is part of life. I would like to, we do have a QR code, so we're very sophisticated with our QR code. And we do have a website, and many, and thanks to Danielle, who not only is a farmer and hatchery technician, but handles our media as well, has been able to update the website with many videos and documentaries that have been done on Shinnecock Kelp Farmers. I do have a little bit more to talk about. It goes into depth about acidification. But Lisa, I'm thinking, or Sarah, I'm thinking of pausing now to see if there are any questions.
I actually have a question. This is Sarah. Once you so I understand all the good things that it does for the water, but and also when you chop it up and plant it with your beans and your corn, what it does to the soil. But do people eat the kelp? Is it used in that way also?
Oh, we do not, because the carbon and nitrates are so high in Shinnecock Bay. It's not consumable at this time. There are areas of Long Island where the water is clean enough and food grade, but with a 99% die-off of scallops, that was because of the lack of proper sewage on the east end. So we saw a change in population as a result of COVID. There's estimates that the population has grown 3 to 5 times larger during COVID. Many of that population stayed on the east end. So the introduction of additional sewage into our area really promoted a change in the waters. So at this point, it is not food grade, but it's great as fertilizer. So we will keep track. Our partners are helping us with testing our product to make sure that it does have the biostimulant properties and that it is soil amendment grade. But we have great hopes, and we're projecting into the future that one day it will be food grade.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
All right. Don't hesitate if you have questions to put them into the chat or raise your hand as I go on. How much time do I have left?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Someone had a question about seed. Or put it in the chat. Something about seed. Are these zygotes? So we start out as zygotes. I can't remember the word. Sporophytes. We start out as sporophytes.
So that means they're fertilized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're already fertilized, and Danielle had mentioned during her presentation that they're becoming more difficult to find. We are very we are very committed, of course, to native species. So we depend on the natural cycle. So as climate change raises the temperature, it is more difficult to find the inoculated sporocytes. And so that impacts when we can get the sporophytes into the lab to grow them into gametophytes so that we can outplant them. So science is actually helping us in the lab to preserve the sporocytes once we actually find them, so that we are able to do our planting, because kelp is a cold water as Danielle says, it's very cold out there. That's because it's a cold water crop. And that's ideal because it comes out of the water before the summer recreation time begins. So we go into the water in very late fall. The kelp comes out of the water just before planting time. So it's really ideal for the garden. It's not so ideal for the kelp farmers who are in the water in January and February, even March and April are chilly. But it's ideal in terms of a water crop that it comes out of the water seasonally. And we are very much concerned about climate change and the ability to harvest the sporocytes. Good question. Thank you. Did that answer your question? Any other?
Kinda, she says. So we call, she went on further to say that kelp is not a seed-bearing organism, so seed is not quite the accurate term. So that's what we refer to it as. We are citizen scientists. So there might be a more accurate term, but for our purposes, we call it seed. The next question is from Carol Ann, who says, our school has a hydroponic lab. Have you ever thought to partner with schools to harvest the baby kelp? So that's a good question. Partnering with schools to harvest. So in terms of, our harvest, we have to go into the water. So that would be a very tall order to get a classroom of students out in the water with us, but it's something that we could do.
Yeah, have little student harvesters.
Yeah.
That would make harvest a lot easier. You would be amazed, as I am constantly amazed when our technicians and farmers come back with our measurements. Earlier, you saw the 1-inch seedlings grow to 5 feet. Well, those 5 feet lasagna noodle type organisms are quite heavy. We are projecting how many pounds per foot would you say, Danielle? Are we thinking 3 to 5 pounds per foot?
Yes, I think that per line we had figured at this point we're at about 350, so 3.5 pounds per foot, I would say.
Yeah, so in terms of students being able to harvest that, it's very difficult, it's very heavy work. So every 10 feet, it is getting quite heavy. But I would love to think about a way and ask you to brainstorm a way that we could have students participate with us at harvest time. But it's not safe. It's dangerous work that they would need training. But boy, it would be a phenomenal opportunity for them to see Mother Nature at work in an amazing way. Thank you for that question.
We have 2 more questions. The first one is from Lou, who says, do we have any record of sugar kelp having grown naturally in Shinnecock Bay in the past? So yes, we have had a few records, but what we see mostly is something called false kelp, which is like a cousin to the sugar kelp, which has a slightly different season of growth. The reason why we chose sugar kelp in particular to cultivate is because it loves just the cold weather. So we don't want to interfere with any type of recreation in our bays or waterways. We don't want to be out there with other, boats, and people tend to get a little rowdy around Memorial Day. So we generally try to pull out at that time. So there is sugar kelp. Our sugar kelp seed came from off the coast of Montauk last year. The next question
Oh,
is,
Dan, could I just add, earlier in the presentation, we did mention our ancestor Anthony Beeman, who had identified sugar kelp as a healing method. That was documented in the 1900s by an anthropologist. So that's just one of the signals that we have that actually tie us to sugar kelp. It wasn't another kind of kelp, but to the sugar kelp. So I hope that additional information answers that question. Thank you.
Christina had a follow-up about, can they grow vegetatively, cut to the base, and wait for regrowth? So generally speaking, we do not harvest in the middle of the season because we want maximum absorption from the kelp. That's our main goal. But we do take those samples that I mentioned before, those 1 foot samples that we use for our carbon testing. And so we have done some experiments this season to cut and see how much they continue to grow. They do continue to grow. Not as fast, but we have seen a little regrowth since every time that we cut. The next question, did you have anything to add, Auntie?
No, that's perfect.
All right, so then the next question is, can you have students string up the seaweed? So I'm wondering if that means stringing up the spools?
I was wondering if students, I didn't hear the whole, sorry, I didn't hear the whole presentation, or if you talked about it already, but are there visiting student groups, and can they do like a light demonstration of tying, of attaching seaweeds, whatever stage they need to be at, to whatever substrate they need to be at? Could you do some kind of demonstration like that with them?
So in theory, yes. So the
Yeah.
putting the kelp on the string takes place in the water. So if they could tolerate 28 degrees air temperature and 40 degrees water temperature, yes.
And do you
But
have?
we do. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We do different demonstrations that we're able to illustrate for those not able to go in the water with us.
Oh, okay.
May I ask a question, Darlene?
Yes.
Hi, I got on late, so I missed the whole first half of the presentation. Sarah, your link kept on buffering, and I couldn't link on to you, so I had to leave the conference and then start it again. So I was just able to get on now. So if the question I'm asking, Darlene, has already been asked, I apologize. Darlene, my friend and I, sometime this summer, would like to come out and volunteer for a day, if that's possible. How would we contact you or arrange something like that?
Joel, thank you so much for your interest, and I'm so happy that this presentation was recorded, so hopefully it will be available.
Great, yes.
It will be available to everyone to review. Now, in the summertime, we are out of the water. We have already harvested, so there isn't really an opportunity to volunteer at that time. But what we do want to create is an opportunity for teaching. And this isn't limited to K-12. We want adults, we want corporations, we want libraries, we want any association that are affiliated and interested in this climate change fight. So kelp is a catalyst for making a difference and educating those that would like to work with us as water protectors.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we're going to be doing is launching a book, a digital book that we are going, and it's K to 12. So depending on what age group, we will be adjusting the content. For the K to 5, we're providing a mural that has kelp on it and little artistic cutouts that students they can put a face on it or they can put their name on it. And we're going to include a lesson plan with a curriculum about kelp, about photosynthesis, about the work that we're doing, in the hopes that students and the community will acknowledge climate change, understand that we can collectively do our little piece to put together a story and fight for the survival of our oxygen and all that we need to breathe. And oxygen is for all of us. And that's something that we really want to share. Not only oxygen, water, and the land is for all of us. And we believe through our traditional teaching and the science that we can provide, that it convinces not only our youngest participant, but our oldest participant that this is something that we should open our minds and hearts and ears to. What's next and what we can do as individuals to save the planet.
Thank you. So to follow up, is there a time of the year where we could come out and help?
Yeah, I actually want to work with Marine Educators Association to come up with a sort of calendar. As we grow, we're bringing more farmers on, and there are times of years where we can use a hand. So we'll need help with organizing because we're farmers.
Yes.
Don't always know how to do organizing, but I'd actually like to connect with the association to get a calendar organized so that we can let people know when we might need assistance. And thank you so much for
Okay.
asking that question and for your interest.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch with you about that, Darlene.
Thank you.
Lisa, your hand is up. Do you have a
Yes,
question?
it was for that. I wanted to know how NYSMEA could get involved,
There you go.
bringing adults, volunteers to help you harvest. And so I'll be in touch with you separately after this conference to figure that out, and we'll publicize it. I myself would like to come out because I was a seaweed farmer myself.
In
So,
Chile.
yes,
Yes, so you're
Sarah.
experienced.
Yes. So I know what it takes, but I would also like to offer it to our membership. I think that
It's Eileen Dugan.
Oh,
Hi,
Eileen,
and I just
hello.
wanted to, hello, I apologize. I don't know how to get my picture to show up. But I did want to quickly mention to the folks the wonderful relationship that we've established now between Shinnecock Kelp Farmers and the Long Island Aquarium. Joe Waiulo is a good friend of NYSMEA as well and a former award winner. So we are now all working together to help create a new storyboard by the kelp exhibit at the aquarium. When I attended Joe's son's wedding, I came to find out, aside from corals being his first love, kelp is his second love. So I got him together with the kelp farmers. We've had a few meetings and hope that wonderful things will happen from here.
Yes, Eileen, we're so excited. We really are looking forward to launching that exhibit by July 1st. So we're looking forward to your assistance and even input from the New York Marine Educators Association in terms of what their students might love to see, because our story is so in-depth. We have so much to share. It's hard to focus on and deliver the information that we need to deliver to capture the interest of our public so that we can bring them along in this process, because it's something that we would love to invite others to join us in the fight.
Okay, so we can talk afterwards about how to connect in this way and how to use our exchange our resources. I have to end this session now because we are soon to move on to the next session. I want to say how grateful we are that you were able to come on and tell us about this new area in ocean conservation on Long Island that you are working in and have been working in for many years. And again, I say, and bringing in the cultural perspective, which is very important. So it's not only science or scientific, but it's cultural as well. And we want to connect more with you about that. And just say once again, thank you so much for your efforts, to both of you, to come on, give us your time, tell us all about your organization and your conservation, and we will meet again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.